Hello everyone. Today we will talk about job analysis. Exactly how do we analyze a job, a particular position? What are the various tasks that is associated with a job? What are the various work that an incumbent has to perform while he or she is in a job? So, job analysis is a process of gathering information, collecting information about the person. No, it is only about the job, as the name suggests. It is to be more specific, a systematic investigation of tasks, duties, responsibilities necessary to do a job. According to Edwin Flipper, job analysis is the process of studying and collecting information relating to the operations and responsibilities of a specific job. Remember, David A. Sinzu and Stephen P. Robbins, one of those proficient writers and authors, states that job analysis is a systematic exploration of activities within a job. It is basically a technical procedures which measures, defines, assigns, or should I say, elaborates upon the duties, responsibilities, and accountability of the job. This is very important that you understand. So, basically, what are the various types of job information that we need to collect around it? Number one is your behavior. Remember, let us understand what a job entails upon it. For example, you are working in a reception of a five-star property. Now in a reception you just cannot leave the reception anytime unmanned. Why? Despite your natural cause for visiting the restrooms, you cannot keep that reception desk unmanned at any point of time. God knows when a guest can walk in, or God knows when a guest will check out without paying their respective dues. So you need to understand what kind of behaviors has to be entailed. What are the job context? Did I give you a context right now about the receptionist in a five-star property? Human requirement. Yes, we require rest, room, breaks. We as a human being, we have to visit certain biological natural calls that are being called upon us, are to be performed by us. So we need to take a break at certain point of interval. So we need to understand what are the requirements of an employee, what are the work activities. At the same time, the receptionist cannot keep that position of reception vacant at any point of time. So we need to understand what are the standards that need to be maintained, what are the machine tools, equipment, and work aids that has to be collected. So these is all we can go and collect it with job analysis, be it behaviors, context, requirement, work activities, performance standards, machine tools, and so what are the how do we ascertain the natures of job analysis? So it is all about tasks. What are the various tasks that an incumbent has to perform in a post? What are the duties basically expected out of him? Remember, there are certain duties which is expected, and based on this expectation are the responsibilities assigned. If you are doing around it, so a job will have certain responsibilities, certain duties, and certain work activities known as tasks that needs to be done. And in all together, these three forms job analysis. So utilization of this information, how do we go about it? What kind of information that we require for recruitment and selection? Definitely yes, for a airline crew member we need to have a stipulation of certain number of heights that a person needs to possess. If he or she doesn't have the requisite height, probably he or she will not be able to put the luggage of the passenger in the luggage rack. Now that requires a high performance. So recruitment and selection, you need to identify, does that incumbent or the prospective employees meet your criteria? Discovering unassigned duties, something which I have never said. For example, the restroom breaks in a five-star property. It's not a part of the job, no way down, but it is a human call. It is a human requirement. So you discover this only when you do a job analysis. The legal compliances, yes, definitely there are certain legal compliances which we need to follow by the law of the land. So that is true. Then comes the compensation. Compensation depends on the complexity of the job, on the importance of the job. We have to go around and analyze the job so that how complex or how simple the job is all about it, and based upon it we can fix a remuneration packages. So basically after that we have talk about the performance appraisal. Why performance appraisal? Because if you are performing fine, you might be promoted. If you are not up to the mark, you probably would be trained. So these are the reason why job analysis is to be taken care of. Now, we what do we go around it? We have given you a good picture in terms of recruitment and selection, performance appraisal, evaluation in terms of wages and salaries depending upon the complexities of the job, and the training requirement in case the incumbent is not able to perform well, or in case the incumbent is already performing well, he or she needs to be promoted. But the new promotion would mean new duties, new tasks, new responsibilities for which he or she has to be groomed, or in other words, simply undergo a training process. Because if we have these four things in continuation, we can come with something called JD and JS, which is known as job description and job specification, which partakes essentially becomes the context for job analysis. So multifaceted natures of job that needs to be taken care for. What are the various multifaceted personal things? We have the recruitment, selection, placement, counseling, human resource planning, job evaluation, job design, redesign, performance appraisal, employee safety. Now, these are what exactly comes around it. What is meant by employee safety? A person working into a job, probably at a very perilous situation, a very dangerous situation. Maybe he or she is a soldier, maybe he or she is working in a blast furnace, in front of a blast furnace, maybe she is working as a traffic where a lot of accident might occur. So employee safety needs to be taken care for. Might be he or she is working in the construction industry where there are n numbers of things that can fall on somebody's head, probably go into some, maybe some limbs might be getting amputated. So you need to take proper precaution. These can be done only when you come to know about job analysis. The information will solicit them. So you will talk about them. Based upon this situation, would you require for a placement of an incumbent where he or she can excel? If you don't think that gentleman or the lady does not have the requisite acumen or ability or knack, or should I say attitude, probably placing him or her would not be a right decision. We need to counsel in case people are facing some sort of trauma, some sort of hindrance, some sort of difficulty in performing a job. Human resource planning is where we need to plan for the newer workforce, newer modalities that the organization might venture into. We need to grow as the organization grows. We need to keep in mind everything about the job, be it the job design, be it the redesign. We look into it. Right now we are talking about, for example, you are in a transport company, you are hiring drivers, yes, but another 50 years down the lane, probably we will be all be driving cars without a driver, because it will become seamless, it will be technology enabled, and so on. So component of job description, basically at this components of job analysis basically comprises of two part: job description and job specification. So what are the job description component? Let us understand what is it. It is nothing but duties and responsibilities of a particular job. It should tell what is to be done, how it is to be done, why should it be done, what is the importance. It will give a complete picture of the job. So now we come to what exactly is job specification. What are the various component of job specification? Please understand, in job description it talks about the job. In job specification, it talks of the person who occupies the job, who mans the job. A statement of minimum acceptable human qualities necessary to perform a job properly. It refers to the summary of the personal characteristic. Remember the example that I sorted out in terms of airline crew members, wherein a prerequisite height, a standard height needs to be possessed by the employee, the prospective employee, for him or her to service the passengers efficiently. So that is specification, a statement of minimum acceptable human quality necessary to perform a job properly. It refers to a summary of the personal characteristic required for performing a particular job. Short. So who should, the question is, who should do the job analysis? Number one, the best thing is the person in context, the person in situation, the person who is holding the job. What are the difficulties he or she is facing? What are the lacunae that might be there in the job? They can tell, and nobody else can tell better than them. So, apart from them, we can have the supervisor can also understand, comprehend, and probably face the same difficulties in implementing or executing the task or the organizational goals. And least but not the last would be an external analysis, wherein the external analysis might expose you to the best practices that a particular job has been done in the world, across the world. So we have the job incumbent themselves, the supervisors, and the steps in job analysis. Let us do what are the steps that is there in job analysis altogether. So first, decide how will you utilize the information. What are you looking at it? Are you looking at placement, recruitment, training, performance appraisal, or any other insight that you want to solicit from the job? Review relevant background information. Select representative position. This is for sure. You need to understand who is manning the position. Actually, now this is the process where you implement, actually analyze the job, verify the job analyst information, develop a job description and job specification, so on and so forth. With your armory, you go ahead and make that critical situation and study that job in detail. Methods of collecting, basically best method would be observation, personal observation. Now what you can do is you can just observe it from a distance. The other one would be in case there are any anomalies both positive and negative. What are the critical incident what incumbent goes through? We can always talk about interviews, have face to face interviews, have group interviews to essentially churn out the required information. And nothing but not the less would be a questionnaire that can be administered to understand what are the feedback that can be collected from a wide number of participants or very huge population at a very short time. So questionnaire, observation, critical incident method, and interview method are the viable aspect to collect analysis. Now, methods. Basically, there are the questionnaire methods, the panel of experts, wherein the people who have actually worked into the job, people who have been into that industry for a certain number of time, with a good knowledge and job will provide you the informations. We can have the diary method where the incumbent, the employee logs everyday requirements, whatever he or she has performed, and whatever shift needs to be are incomplete, so that the subsequent person who is going to man his or her position would be doing those work. So that is the diary method. You go to the diary, you refer to the diary, and you will see what are the various activities that has been put forward. Questionnaire method has actually been said to you that it can collect a lot of information in a very short period of time, but the thing is it will only give you standard information. Standard questions are given, so standard information. PAQ, position analysis questionnaire, a wonderful equipment, or should I say a wonderful data collection methods. It is standardized to use information, gives an information to an incumbent about the job, about the position. Position analysis questionnaire hereby will be referred as PAQ. Next comes the functional job analysis, is basically systematic process of finding what is done on a job by examining, analyzing the fundamental components of data, people, and things. So, guidelines for conducting a job analysis in interviews. First and foremost thing, please make the incumbent comfortable. Try to build a rapport with them. Have a clear objective stated to them that why this particular interviews or interaction has been taken forward, and ask them to speak, allow them to speak, be empathetic towards them. Whatever point they wanted to put across, do not interrupt. Help the workers to think and talk in a logical sequence. Make it a sequential. There might be people who might give you bits of information here and there. Please make them iron out those issues. Ask the workers only one question at a time. Phrase question carefully so that the answers are either yes or no. Avoid asking leading question. Leading question is wherein you want the incumbent or the person or the employee to answer whatever you want to hear it out. So don't give them an open ended question. No, always have complete information in particular to the job that he or she performs. And believe me, if you can put it in their vernacular language, in their mother tongue, I am most sure and most confident that people will be more upfront with you in the interview process. Try to build relationships within a department and so on and so forth. That needs to be taken across. Control time, subject matter to the worker, and definitely try to summarize it at the end of the interview. And believe me, give them a proper closing when you want to close interviews. So job analysis questionnaires, or should I say position analysis questionnaire, what you want to go around it, we need to have a quantitative job analysis. And how do we have this quantity, the number of the person who needs to be bigger, so much of quantity? First is PAQ, first is POQ, then is FJA, or functional job analysis, as to which functional he or she is performing: finance, marketing, operations, security, landscaping, and so on and so forth. And what are the various labor procedures that goes around it? So these are the things that needs to be taken care for. Employee activities in positional analysis questionnaire. Information input, first and the foremost thing is the information input that needs to be taken care for. How does he does around it? What are the information that he performs? Can we have some written material or observation at very close process? Mental processes, what are the analytical or the cognitive skills that is required to perform a job? Physical activities, what physical activities does an employee perform? Is it a manual labor? Is it of a scavenging nature? Is there exert a lot of physical activities? Please understand this thing. There might be people who are working around it. Are you working on your computers? Are you working in coding? Is it cognitive in nature? Is it physical in nature? Then we talk about the relationships status. What is the relationships status with other people, with your co-workers, with your employees, with your boss? Job context is the physical and the social context that the work is being performed. Is it in high temperature? Did I say a blast furnace? Is it of an interpersonal conflict? Do you actually handle with antisocial elements? If that is the case, how do you go around it? And other job activities which actually entails it. Probably you might be into a job which is deadline driven. You have to submit something or the other thing deadline. For example, you might be in a publishing industry, into the news industry, where you have to submit a editorial every week or every 3 days. So that is what you need to go around it. We have a deadline job. The end product of job analysis is job description and job specification that needs to be carried forward. This is very important. So job description tells anything and everything about the job. Job specification tells anything and everything required by a candidate to be possessed for that job. So writing job description is very easy. We need to identify the jobs. We need to have the summarization of the job. We have to have the responsibilities, the duties, the reporting relationship, the SOPs or the standard of performances, the conditions of working, and the specification the incumbent should possess should be identified with the job description. This is of utmost importance. Job identification, job summary, responsibility and duties, authority of the incumbent, standard of performance, working condition, and job identification. So we'll talk about job identification quickly. How do you identify a job? With the title of the position that you're going around it. Very simple and very straight. Are you a chief executive officer, CEO? What is the preparation date? So as on which on date? Is it 2022? Who is the prepared by? Who with H? Is it from the HR department or the incumbent who has prepared it himself or herself? Then we have the general summary. What is broadly you are expected to do? Absolutely. What are the major functions and activities? Relationships. Here you have the superordinate and the subordinate, your boss and your subordinate or the workers who report to you. Somebody where you report and somebody who reports to you, supervises with, works with. These relationships are very vital within the company. And if you are working with the periphery of the company where you are interacting with the customer and the vendors, you should also have relationships, sound relationship with the vendors and customers. Major responsibilities and duties are essential: decision making, functional, direct supervision, and budgetary. Now this is which tells you your performances in black and white. It will tell you have you succeeded or not. what are the number of decisions that have taken, how many of them backfired, and how many of them were super successful. Standard of performances and working condition, depending upon which kind of job, which kind of industry you're working around it. I am sure each industry would have an identical standard of performances, more or less similar working condition. So, and what it takes, what are the personal attributes, what are the personal characteristic, what personality of a person can be successful in any particular job, that needs to be taken for. So now we'll talk about, this was all about job description. Now we'll talk about job specification. We are talking in specification about the person. Remember, we said about the traits and experience, the quality and the ability of the person who's managing the job, based on statistical analysis of how successful or how unsuccessful he or she is, all about it, based on decision making capacity of their judgment, and specification trained on versus untrained personnel, whether you are skilled enough, whether you are unskilled enough, whether you are whether your education background is sound or of not so sound footing. So steps in statistical approach. How do we go around it? We need to measure jobs. How do we analyze the job? How to measure the job? Selects the personal characteristic or traits that you believe would be essential ingredient for being a successful performer. Test the candidate for these kind of traits. Test him if he is medically sound, if he is psychologically sound. He or she take up pressures, utmost pressure. Measure the candidate's subsequent. Now relate your standards with the actuals where the incumbent is actually in the real life situation in the workforce. Statistically analyze the relationship between human traits and performances. So analyze job in a jobless world. In a jobless world, everybody is doing. We have heard of this situation of jack of all trade and probably master of none. Now, jack of all trade means you know anything and everything for anything and every domain that is prevalent out there. Now, how do we enrich them? We can enrich them. We can, if we can multiply, or there's a convergence of certain technologies, certain job roles. So therein, it will be more satisfying for the incumbent to work. We can alternatively, if not enrich, we can rotate from one job to another job, from one job for 6 months, next job for 6 months, another job for 6 months, and so on and so forth. Or we can simply expand the scope of the job. So he does whatever he or she is doing. That's the core of his job activities. But apart from that job activities, he or she entails a new other activities coming around his benefit. So that is all about job enlargement, job rotation, job enrichment. I come to the very last slide for giving you a job specification, which tells you about the education, which tells you about the experiences, which tells you about the KSA, knowledge, skills, and abilities, the orientation factors, which is 15% of the travel, which we can do go around it, and probably what are the ages that we are looking into out here. So with this, we will very clearly specify job specification and come to an this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this video.